Get your tickets now for the 23rd annual edition of the OUTshine LGBTQ Plus Film Festival happening April 23rd to May 2nd. Don't miss our incredible grand opening drive-in event followed by 10 days of non-stop films from here and all around the world that you can watch at home. Watch trailers and get your tickets at OUTshineFilm.com now.
Looks like the video is going. Hi everyone, my name is Chris Fastine. I'm the treasurer of the OUTshine Film Festival, and welcome to the 23rd Miami edition of OUTshine LGBTQ Plus Film Festival. We're so excited to have you here to part of this, delivered again virtually. Definitely a special thanks to our presenting sponsors, Gilead, as well as Miami-Dade County. And a real special thanks to all of our producer circle members. We couldn't do this without you, as well as with your generous support. And for those of you who aren't already members, please consider joining. It's a great way to get involved with our community. We have a lot of great programming, a lot of great benefits to being a member. So definitely please consider joining if you're not already there. We're really excited today to be able to present and actually do an interview on the film Above Troubled Water with director Joe Cohen, as well as one of the main characters, Bissy. So without further ado, if you can please join the interview. Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Hi, Bissy. How's it going?
Hi, Chris. Very well, thank you. How are you?
Great. I'm doing very well. Well, thank you both so much for joining.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. Yeah, we're really excited to talk about the film. I always like to start these first with a couple fun questions. So maybe first Joe, and then if you want, and Bissy, if you want to first just talk about yourselves and maybe tell us something fun that you've learned to do during COVID and lockdown.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us, and thank you for having us. I really feel honoured to be able to share the film with you and your festival. It's great. What have I learned during COVID? I actually finished, last year, we actually finished the edit for the film. And that was partly in the first month of lockdown, we had a picture lock. So that was kind of a major achievement in a pandemic.
Exciting. How about you, Bissy?
Hi, Chris, once again. Hi, good afternoon. Okay, so I'm saying hello from Lagos, Nigeria, where I've been now for about 4 weeks. And I think one of the things that fun thing I've done during COVID is learning to run away from Britain. With an act I have perfected very well now. I always find a reason to get out, and this is my second time running out. So yeah, that's my new superpower now.
Excellent. Well, good to hear. Great. So maybe, maybe you can, it seems like it was a very collaborative type of film. So maybe you could both talk a little bit about, how the project came about, your inspiration, how did you guys meet, and how everything played out that way.
Yeah, I think that, I just finished film school, and I was looking for my next film. I think I've always been interested and very passionate about refugee rights and immigration. I ran the Student Action for Refugees charity at Bristol University when I was at university. And I think, it was sort of on my antenna that I wanted to make a film where we can have a conversation about LGBT asylum seekers and refugees, particularly because the British press is so demonizing of them and it's so hypocritical, and I'm sure the US press as well. And I remember just being so outraged about that. And when I met Bissy, I think we first met at a dance party in South London, and I think it was Horsemeat Disco in South London. And within the first few months, I was so moved by Bissy's story, and really I felt that this is a story that I wanted to tell. And I approached you, and you agreed, and that was amazing. That was the beginning of a kind of very long process of starting to make this film.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. I think it was we met at Cosmic Disco, and it was one of the bank holidays, and I was out with my boyfriend and who is now my ex and friends, and we're just on the dance floor, and then we got talking, and then we met after that, and yeah, and so that was yeah, of where the film came from.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. Yeah. I know there's a couple other characters that that weren't able to join the interview. So Damoshe as well as Ade. So what is I got the sense, I guess that you guys used to live together. They were part of your house. Is that your connection to the other two characters? Bissy?
Yeah, yes, actually. So, have you seen Pose? Have you seen Pose?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's very much so the queer culture in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much like that. So there is always a house.
Yeah.
There is always a head of a house, and then there are people that are like the children of that house. So it was basically my house, and there are more than the numbers that are in this film. So only two of them featured in this film, but there are other members of that house,
Mm-hmm.
and they just grew under my support and my teaching and my word ways, and it was a sense of community. We were together, we support each other, and maybe not as grandiose as you will see in New York.
Mm-hmm.
We go to balls as well, and we all go to ball together.
Okay.
We do pageants as well. We do pageantry as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, these were my kids. These were my children. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So I'm familiar, sort of like the house scene, or I think there's another documentary called I think it's Paris is Burning. It's about similar to
exactly.
It's about like the house scene, like in New York, where the different groups, there's competition. So I know you guys talk a bit about in the film, but that's very interesting. That's good. That's good. Cool. I guess maybe the title of the film. I mean, I could see a lot of ways. Like, what was the inspiration for above troubled water? How did that come about?
So initially, the film had a working title called The Boy from Mushin, and that was Mushin was the area in Lagos where Bissy grew up, and I'm sure Bissy can talk more to you about that. But initially, this film actually started off. In my head, it was a feature-length film. It was going to be a feature-length film, and it was going to be about Bissy's story. And I think as a documentarian, the film doesn't have a script. It's not like you're following a script. So often, I think when you start forming a story, you don't necessarily know where it's going, and you start off in good faith. And I think that initially this was a film following Bissy's story, and Bissy has a very powerful coming out story. And I think one of the things that I was looking for was a connective thread to the present. And Bissy was invited to Nigeria for the first time since he left to talk at the Aki, was it the book fair or the art fair? Aki Art Fair, I think it was. Anyway, so I wanted to go with Bissy to tell the story, and it was the first time that he had been, going back to Nigeria since he left. So it was very important.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was a very important scene to film. And literally the week before we were going to leave, and I spent a lot of money on the visa and the hotel. And, the visa was denied, and I was not able to go with him. And so that provided that was I suppose a point in the film where I had to think, okay, what is this film about? How can I tell this story? And I remember when Bissy had told me about the friends of his or the children in his house that now lived around the world. And I think slowly from then, the film began to move into filming with Bissy's friends. And it became a film about friendship and about living in exile rather than just about Bissy's story or Bissy's coming out story. And actually, one of the lines in one of the interviews that we'd filmed with Bissy had said, I don't know if you remember this, but you had said, we have to keep our heads above the surface of water in order to stay, in order to keep the fight going. And whilst that sentence didn't make it into the final edit, I was really struck that, for you guys, you're constantly trying to keep your head above the troubled water, because there's so much layered challenges, not only in Nigeria, but also in the West, that you guys face. So for me, that sentence that you said, it really resonated with me, and it sort of provided an overall emotional feeling about the film.
Got it. Great.
I think it actually made it to the film, because I heard it. I heard it in the film, so it made it into it.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. I guess I think I counted. It took place filming in like 5 different countries, and kind of tracking your trajectory. So it sounds like you leave Nigeria, I guess, in the early 2000s, and you're kind of set on this sort of almost activist work. Particularly around HIV/AIDS awareness. How has that journey been for you? And then also, I'm kind of curious, like, how have things evolved now that you've come back, to your country? Like, has anything changed, or is it, and has this work helped to either make that easier, or what's that reaction been like?
Well, it's been a full cycle. Basically, I mean, I came out in 2004. That is 17 years ago now that I came out in Nigeria. I left 2.5 years after that. I had to run away from the country and find a place for myself in the UK. And 2015, just like Joseph said, I had to come back to Nigeria, and that was my first trip back to Nigeria, and that has consistently been my trip back to Nigeria. Since then, I've been coming back to Nigeria, and I think that there was a part of me that needed to have that first trip, that needed to use that first trip to build my self-confidence and to build the need for what needs to be done. But prior to that, I've been very involved, even from the diaspora, in the movement in Nigeria. I've been very involved in activism on the ground. I always, live my life according to the Bible of the Rothstein that says that we need in every day and community a group of angelic troublemaker. And I've always made a decision to always define my community, to always define my day, and that has been timeless, spaceless, and it cuts across location, it cuts across time, it cuts across place. Everywhere I personally feel that something needs to be done, I go in and I do something. So Nigeria was also part of that, and so being able to come back now, um, it's great. I wouldn't say anything has changed or anything that hasn't changed. And this is what I always tell people: change when it comes to sexual orientation or gender identity in Nigeria depends on who you are asking. And it depends on their economic and social status. And it depends on which part of Nigeria that they are living in.
Got it. Very, very interesting. Yeah, there's a very poignant moment, I think, in the film where you're talking about you're in the house. I guess it's right before your mother tells you need to leave. There's this episode where essentially you're attacked, and you go to the police station, and it's, rather than trying to be on your side, it sounds like you're immediately kind of taken into, you're detained and questioned, for what they're saying for being homosexual, as well as homosexual, encouraging and educating other homosexuals. Such a, I mean, it's very sad. It's such a contrast actually what the situation actually was. So, great. Can you talk a little bit? There's also this theme, I think both you and Damoshe talk about. You face this type of discrimination in Nigeria, but then you go to your respective countries. You go to the UK. I guess he ends up in New York, and then there's this other layer of discrimination, kind of based in those countries. Obviously, contextually very different places. But can you describe a little bit? Were you expecting that, or did you know that was coming as well, or what was that a little bit like for you?
I mean, I always say this, and I know that Damoshe and Ade will also say the same thing. I didn't live, or I didn't, I will speak for myself. I didn't leave Nigeria as a black man. I left Nigeria as a Nigerian.
Right.
And so the concept of racism, of race, wasn't something that I was clued up on until I moved to the UK and I became black. And I think that same will go for Damoshi as well. So I guess the idea of leaving Nigeria was basically the idea of saying that, you know, I needed a place I needed to go somewhere. I needed to go somewhere and find safety. I needed to go somewhere and be able to breathe in a way. And coming here, and you just realize that, you know, the 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 knee that was on your neck at home is different from the one that you have to feel on your neck when you're not home. So you have to deal with what it means to be black and with what it means to be an immigrant, because there are layers to that. So there is a thing of what it means to be black within the old social structure
Right.
that exists. And then there is what it means to be an immigrant within the black social structure that exists. Because there is the black that have been there before you, and they feel that they own this space and that your presence there is a threat, right? So there are those layers that you have to deal with. So they come in subtext, and how you tend to learn them, you tend to understand them, you tend to navigate them, while at the same time you're trying to navigate your queerness within the black society that are the diaspora society that you belong to. So there's still the Nigerian society is very big in the UK. So trying to be part of it as a queer or remove yourself completely. So making a decision to say, do I still want to be Nigerian when I'm in the UK, or do I want to completely remove myself from the Nigerian setting because of certain, you know, challenges that you face? So these are different layers, and trying to navigate yourself demands a lot of smartness. And this is why I always just say this, you know, aside from everything, the black immigrants are really clued up, smart, emotionally intelligent people, because of a lot of things they need to find their way through, and they need to, you know, they need to go through in every day of their life.
Mm-hmm. Great. Joe, anything you wanted to kind of add, or to kind of you were trying to convey with that?
I think I was really struck by the points that this is making throughout the process of filming. And for me, you know, as a white filmmaker, I'm also struck by the fact that we are not having these conversations in our own communities. And I think we need to be having these conversations, and that's partly one of the reasons why I wanted to make this film,
Mm-hmm.
is to talk about it and to address the fact that, you know, LGBT asylum seekers and refugees, and specifically Black LGBT asylum seekers and refugees, are often excluded. They are discriminated against. And, you know, I think the film is in part a conversation between me and the contributors, between Bissy and Demoshe and Ali. Partly it's a conversation between themselves, but I would like also the film to be a conversation between, you know, the film and the audience. And I think we need to ask ourselves really fundamentally, you know, challenging questions about how we treat refugees and asylum seekers in our own LGBT communities. Too often they're excluded, and that needs to change.
Mm-hmm. Great. Anything? I mean, there's a lot of really beautiful. I thought really just striking, just general like photography. You know, there's pictures of the. I think when you're in South Africa, pictures of the water, pictures of the beach. Any particular moment that you know you want for people when they watch the film to really pay attention to. You know, whether it's the visuals or any particular moment.
I mean, this can say which part for him, but for me, the point where Ade says, "These are curses," of people cursing in my head right at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an image of leaves fluttering. That to me is really important, because I feel like, you know, the film is about, Bissy is you're continuing your advocacy, and I'm not saying you don't have challenges, but you're continuing advocacy. Damoshe is on his journey to become a nurse, and Ade has been really struggling, and was struggling at the time that I was making the film. Sorry to phrase that. And I just was really struck by when he was talking about these voices in his head, like that is the legacy of trauma. That is the legacy of shared trauma on multiple levels. And I was really just struck by that moment where it all comes into a force for him, and you see the leaves are kind of on the trees, and that somehow talking about the legacy of shared trauma and the impact of that on people's lives is very real.
Yeah, I think it's an important point, just because obviously the three of you were each affected differently, or it sounds like where Bissy and Damoshe have been very much very much inspired by the moment to as a call to action, whether it's through activism or through caring for others. I think that's really, we definitely see it. I watched the film a couple times, and I really picked up it more on the second time on sort of Ade's sort of like struggle and journey. But yeah, definitely, I think that's a really important way to sort of footnote sort of what he's going through now. So, Bissy, any particular moment that stood out for you in the film that would, even after watching it, that you would really want people to get?
I want to just echo what Joe said. I think I've not seen Ade now since for 14 years now. I've not seen him. And I guess the first time I'll be so close up and personal with him was watching the film when it was first premiered. And it kind of just breaks my heart to see him in that situation. But also a part of me that just felt like he's a fighter. I've always known him to be a fighter. And not in any way undermining his vulnerability. But there's just a part of me that strongly believes in him. So that stood up for me strongly to just see him, see what he's going through, and I guess that there's also that part of me that just couldn't reach out to him, just couldn't tell him, because let's be fair, I've had my own moments like that. Spent some time in a mental institution. It is not easy. It is not easy having to leave what you know and how you know them to a place where you don't know anything. And it's not just that you don't know anything. The system is set up for you not to know anything. The system is set up to question your every move, your every existence. The system is set up to undermine you, to diminish you, to dehumanize you. And you question yourself, where do I belong to? Who am I in all of these things? I can't go back home because home is not there for me anymore. Home has rejected me. I can't stay here because this place is telling me every day, whether it's on TV, on radio, in the newspaper, in the community, on the street, it's constantly telling me that I do not belong here. And you will need a high level of resilience for you to be able to find yourself and be able to be grounded in it. So I wouldn't say that the journey that Damoshe or myself have gone through is in any way easy. But I felt like maybe one thing is that we had a support. There are a few of my friends that live in the UK, that live in London. So there was still that sense of community that I could tap into. There was that in New York. There's a big Nigeria queer community in New York that they all came out of Lagos and they all live in New York. Damoshe can tap into that.
Yeah.
Ade was left alone.
Yeah.
All by himself in Canada. And that was the added disadvantage, I think, for him.
No, understood.
I just want to add one small piece of information about Ade, which is a positive piece of information. At the time of filming, until almost 2 weeks before we had the premiere of the film in London, I hadn't heard from Ade, and I kept reaching out and he hadn't seen the film. And so, at the end of the titles, when I say, Bissy continues the activism and Demoshi is now a nurse, and the card for Adi was Adi, since filming Adi has been out of contact. And it always sat with me, like, that's just a really sad title. And finally, about a week or two before the premiere, I managed to get through to him, and we had this great conversation. He had managed to watch the film, and I was worried about how he would think and how he came across. He thanked me for making the film, and he said, "Oh, I want this title to be this. That like actually, I'm studying to become." He wants to pursue the studies in communication and design.
Okay.
That was a real really positive note to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it's good to hear. Yeah. I know we're just about out of time, but you guys have been super gracious and covered so many questions. But is there anything else? I always like to leave the last word to the creators. So, is there anything that you would like to last words for each of you want to leave the audience with about the film? And definitely everyone out there, please, if you haven't already seen the film, please go ahead and watch it.
Bissy?
Well, I just want to say that I'm sure everybody knows that the story is real. It's a real life experience, and I hope that this will reignite something in all of us, even at this moment in the world where we find ourselves. That within this month alone, more than 4 Black people have been killed in the United States of America alone in the hands of the racist police structure that America has. I hope that this will reignite the humanity and the compassion in all of us to see that, we are all that we've got. And irrespective of race, irrespective of ethnicity, sexual orientation, or gender identity, we are all that we've got.
Great.
I'd like to add that Bissy is doing amazing work, and he has a foundation called the Bissy LME Foundation, and I just encourage people to go and check it out. Like, it really is. It's really important research and advocacy work. So it's the Bissy LME Foundation, and also people are looking and watching this and are looking if they are LGBT and asylum seekers or refugees in the US. They can. I know that there's the LGBT Asylum Project in San Francisco, and there's also AsylumConnect.org, and I think that can put you in touch with, a network of organizations that might be able to help.
That's great. That's great. And Joe, you've been super generous about, I think, really putting the spotlight back onto Bissy and the characters of the film. But anything new for you? Just one last question.
I am developing my new film, which is a documentary, and I'm super excited and just ready for the pandemic to be over, like everybody else is. Get out filming again. Yeah, I'm ready.
Great. I think we all are. Great. Well, thank you both so much. Everyone, please stick around for the trailer for Above Troubled Water. And thank you everyone. And also thank you to Alexis from OUTshine for running the back of house for this film, and to our wonderful staff. And we'll see you at the movies. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
My mindset would be, going to Nigeria right now, I'm going to die.
Okay, I have a home with a man I love, where I am not condemned and I'm not regarded as a non-entity. I can as well express my heart desire.
We used to call him Mother. He was the oldest amongst us, and we were like his children.
Just wanting to do something meaningful. Just wanted to save my friends from dying.
We left our country because of our sexuality. And then we come here. And then we have this problem with race.
I traveled all the way from London. I come to your house to still come and cook.
all of a sudden we heard bang on the window.
You know, it feels like yesterday.
I have a mission to accomplish.